This broadcast is inappropriate for all ages. Right here on Jam on Toast. I am Kamurai. Forgive me, that was the weird delay of entry here, but all I want to do is lay down. I hurt my back, so I gotta watch a couple extra things, but I literally all I want to do is lay down. It's crazy, crazy. So I did watch again. I did watch a couple things. I actually want to kick off with a couple movies. Um, Balls Out. I fell asleep during it, but it's like one of those college movies. Like his dream is to do intramural football again, um, and it's just one of those things. Um, I can't recommend it. Dead for Before Dawn. It actually had a recognizable cast from like a few years back. Like not anyone you like know their names, but you'd be like, oh, I've seen that person and I've seen that one. It's just one of those things. And how do I say it? It'll be whatever it is. It's there's some urn, it breaks, it causes a demon to curse these kids. They write their own curse, which is probably the funniest thing in the whole thing. But it's this whole kind of slapstick comedy thing about their curse living out. Christopher Lloyd's like the grandpa in charge of the store where the urn was, and so it's a survive the night type zombie anime, or not anime but zombie trope, and it's really interesting to see that sort of thing out there and do its thing, and it was fairly entertaining. If you like zombie movies, this is actually a pretty good twist. It's got some ridiculous elements to it, like part of the curse was like if you French the zombies, the Zemans, the zombie demons, then they become your slave. So like that comes into play, and it's like, uh, but it is what it is. What it is. I just sharing that I watched it. I didn't turn it off. It was a decent attempt at a movie. Um, if I remember correctly, the kid Casper is the same kid Jasper from the 100. So that's what it is. And turns out I do not put out YouTube messages when I go live on there. So I will figure that out. Bum ba dum bum. Uh oh gosh. Okay, I did not take into account my hair might do at this scale. I'm too lazy to, and my back hurts, so I didn't move the green screen. So I've got this lovely background today, and yeah, and of course Tux is in my lap, and Ivory decides to come over and lay on the keyboard. So we've got a full house. Let's get on and talk about television because I gotta get through this. Two Broke Girls, Big Bang Theory, Angel from Hell. Sorry, no episode for Two Broke Girls or Big Bang Theory. I think Spring Break has them on a short hiatus. Angel from Hell, I think, is on a much longer hiatus. Also, Superstore, no episode for Last Man on Earth, and Undateable, I think, is also on hiatus. I'm not sure why, but I haven't seen it come out for a while now. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, actually an insane amount of helpful resolution going on. Just she's really kind of healing and being less crazy. Um, she's still not with Greg, which I think is where the narrative is taking us. Because we've acknowledged that Josh is not the right guy. That Josh doesn't really care for her like she's been trying to care for Josh. And um, there's a very long bit about a dream ghost for her therapist that helped solve all her issues. So she became extra crazy as a result, and it just went on too long and too heavy for me to enjoy that aspect. But I do like it as a supporting episode for the overall narrative, which for when you get into funny episodic shows, you tend to lose that. And I'm glad that she came back around and is concentrating the overall story arc. I really do. New girl, Jess is helping out Cece move out of her apartment, and then Cece's helping Jess be a stronger person like she always has, and tells off her boss, and then like uh, just totally recants it all and then ends up stepping up for herself anyways, which I really like. That you shouldn't have to let other people stand up for you. You should stand up for yourself. And it's how it is. So it's kind of interesting. Caddy, I will kill you live on camera. Don't feel that good. Um, and then I don't even know what happened with the guys. I know Winston's possibly was this the same time period? Possibly it was the story arc where Winston ends up getting a new partner, and then Schmidt and Nick are running the bar or something. That's that episode. But Winston gets a new partner who's not incompetent per se, but as quirky as he is, and very much the beta. And then his alpha partner gets another female alpha partner, and it turns out to be a very much like, oh, these two should be together and these two should be together, and not the alphas and the alphas, the alpha and the alpha and the beta and the beta. So whatever, it's just one of those things. It's I don't know. It's not a very deep show. It's entertaining though. It's still pretty funny. It's like I liked it. The chick walked in and was like, "Yeah, punch my stomach." It's like, okay, this is where we're going with this character. But let's see. Over on Modern Family, oh yeah, for whatever reason, Sofia Vergara being hot is its whole own trope. And I don't get it. It's fine. Love her if you love her. I'm not saying she's a bad actress. I don't dig the accent per se, and like I don't see what everyone else sees. But like we've got Claire doing yoga, and I'm in. And to me, like they make a whole joke out of it that Claire outshines her at yoga, and I think it's because she was the new person, and perhaps like there's this joke that she puts out more of a loneliness or something. She's older and been married longer, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But like the whole point is that the yoga teacher is being extra attentive to Sofia Vergara's character. Is that how you say her name? I don't know. And then Claire comes in and he is super attentive to the point of calling her up to ask her out. Um, I think it was like a shower in a movie or something. Dinner in a shower? I don't know. It was something weird. Um, and then like Phil just happens to be into the person he's trying to help find a house. And so like they're both trying to like keep it from the other person, and then of course Phil gets busted because he's super ridiculous the way he's doing things. Because he's also trying to keep it from the client, where she is not trying to keep it from the yoga instructor, which I found entertaining. And so they have to come to this nice, sweet resolution on everything. And they actually meet. They went the extra mile with the joke. They met with the client and her husband or her boyfriend or whatever. And it was like her boyfriend was into Claire too, which of course Claire gets to gloat about in general. And like it's just kind of like, okay, we're all square. Nobody's in trouble. Um, and then oh yeah, so like Jay starts a podcast, which I thought was funny, but like it's a totally plausible thing that I've actually I would like to see them do in conjunction with the show. I would like it to be a real podcast along with Earls of Wisdom, which is arch nemesis declares that he's going to start one as well. So I think that would actually be a good thing for Jay Pritchett and Earl whatever to do it until they run it out in the story. Um, that type of thing I think is actually really engaging. And then Cam and Mitch are trying to teach Lily to ride a bike, and Cam breaks his arm, and they're stupid. The jokes, like for them, are usually so over the top that they either land or they don't, and there's nowhere in between. Over in the middle, whatever reason, Frankie decides that she misses the kids and she's having weird empty nest syndrome, even though Brick's still there. So she convinces them to come home and get their wisdom teeth taken out for spring break so that she can take care of them. And then Sue's little gay friend, I'm not insulting him at all. He's the gay character. Like comes over to help out and steals it all from Frankie, and Frankie, being a jealous bitch, ends up like booting him out of the house, which I thought was kind of funny. Funnier than the idea of her being sad enough to bring them home and ruin their first, Sue's first spring break as in college. And then it's the funny thing where Brick's establishing dominance to the point of like videotaping them while they're all out of it to substantiate a contract. which I kind of dug for Brick's character. It's like, yeah, that's the type of thing he would do because he's kind of a young Sheldon Cooper, just not as smart. Um, so it's interesting to see that connection. Um, oh yeah, and then like the whole thing with Mike's diaper business with his brother, like his brother's ex-wife or whatever, supposedly had the idea, and it turns out that like she just thought up diapers, like for whatever reason that was the thing that everything hinged on. Like we were almost at the point where Frankie was telling Mike to sleep with another woman to get the deal sealed, which I think is like I could spend a whole hour just on that dynamic alone. Um, which I find that super interesting personally that somebody would care enough about a business deal to be like, we're still together, but go have some fun, buddy. And I don't know why. I just find that super entertaining, and I probably shouldn't. Maybe I'm a horrible person. I don't know. Nothing for grandfathered. Nothing for life in pieces. CBS seems like they're on a break too in general. Last minute Sunday had Reba McEntire on. I don't know how you spell her name, but like she was like an ex girlfriend of Mike's that's now like a famous climber that they wanted to get for a deal, and so they kind of lit, probably rightfully so, her to take over the episode. Most of the storylines were centered on that. Then there was this nice side story about Kristen and Mandy and their relationship because Kristen's trying to get rid of a bunch of stuff, and then Mandy's a heartless bitch, so they give it to all to her to sell, except for Mandy comes across something that she gave Kristen. Um, that was a special memory. Sisterly bonding, if you will, which maybe I can't relate to. Not because it's sisterly bonding, I just don't have that relationship with my siblings. Um, Fresh off the boat. Um, I've never seen this trope before, so I thought it was very interesting. The dad being so afraid to not to be entertaining or cool to his kids that he causes like bodily injury to himself, actually causing him to face that fear. I thought was an interesting way to write that all together. So props to the writing department on that. Where the show suffers from time to time, there's really this really neat backbone to it that I can certainly get behind at certain points. And then, of course, that turns into Jessica running the restaurant, which is kind of like a Wicked Witch of the West scenario, but she can't fire anybody, so she has to get creative. And they do this like overly involved plot where she actually helps the business by running this promotion, where essentially people don't have to tip, where they get carry out orders, but they get it to stay. And it's just because the idiot employees won't listen to her. But when it comes down to it, these idiot employees really come together and, with the power of their hearts, make the business successful or something. Like I just thought it was nice, a nice message, but it was a little much. Over on the Real O'Neills, Kenny calls himself a fag, and then becomes a victim of his own hate crime. Like that was a super interesting way to open up the thing, but they're not gonna be able to pull these punches throughout the entire show. So I am curious to see where they're going with it. But like every time they definitely carry on like story arcs. It's really interesting how they're designing the show because like in Modern Family, The Middle, Life in Pieces, they have like essentially one day or week's worth of stories, and in each character is their own thread, and they weave together. In the Real O'Neills, it's very much they run parallel, and then they have junctures where they run together, very much like in Snatch, where you have like the major story arcs, and then you have a collision point, and then the story continues on separately from there. Um, so you've got the brother like trying to defend the main character. You got the sister helping out how she can by being a devious little bitch, essentially, and helping him break rules. And then you've got the parents trying to like keep everything together. Um, so there's that, and then there's the school sharing the authoritarian line where they're trying to reprimand him for being bad, but he's also the victim, so they can't do much about it. And they keep giving him special treatment when he's trying to get in trouble because he's acting out, but they don't want to come off as if they're persecuting a gay, and it's just very awkward. Um, and I honestly want to talk to some gay people specifically about how they feel about this show. So if you are gay and happen to come across this and have feelings, no, scratch that. If you have feelings about the show in general, then hit me up at Kamurai25 on the Twitters. But if you're gay, I have particular interest specifically in how you feel this represents you. Over on the Brooklyn Nine-Nine, for whatever reason, I don't know, don't send people animals. It's not funny. It's not a joke. It's cruel to the animal. If the person doesn't want an animal, don't send it to him. But apparently his old precinct sends him kittens on a regular basis to mock him because of some case. Jake helps him bust the case wide open, and it turns out the guy was faking being a paraplegic for like an extended period of time. Um, which I guess if you rob enough money, that's worth it. If you remember, there's a movie called the not the Illusionist, the Prestige, about magicians and about how living your tricks as a magician is a heavy but worthwhile cost to pay for the art. Bunch of shows that didn't do episodes or on hiatus: Muppets, Mom, Casual, Family Guy. I think Casual's done. I think it's canceled at this point. I'll probably remove it from this list soon. Family Guy, Bob's Burgers. They're surprising me. Like I thought that they just put out episodes willy nilly for like 26 at a time, but I don't know. I gotta figure it out. I got caught up. This shouldn't be here. This should be on the catching up. I have a very odd relationship with Crunchyroll at this point. Um, and I did catch up on a race, but we'll circle back to that. Oh my back, my back. Elementary. It turns out like every detective show gets around to doing this apparently now because with how big Marvel movies are and everything. Um, they did the costume hero stick. It wasn't particularly interesting other than they were investigating the comic book publisher, and then they had Sherlock like get in a bunch of comics to go in and do extra research because it was literally he could research that entire world. Um, Now he only did the main run, but if you're into comics or no comics at all, you know that how they do crossovers and everything. So he could have missed any number of things. But he was looking at the points where the hero died. You would have thought he would have covered those bases, but I don't know. But we set Joan up as a closet nerd, so I like that in its own right, and I hope it's a setup for later. The big story in this is not actually the murder investigation, which is what they've been doing more this season, and I don't know if I like that or not. It's strange, let's say. Um, the way they've been doing it is they've been doing it to set things up, and they've been doing it in small instances. And I can only hope that now it's a big instance because Sherlock's father hires, or not really hires, but compels Joan to do some work for him to find a mole. And she tells him no, but of course, he's not a dummy. There's a mole. She found him, but she covered for him in order to use it um, towards him. I have no idea what my analytics are doing, but who cares? So that's interesting how she's going to try to leverage. I can't remember his name. Holmes's dad. Just say that. Over at Castle, I really liked this one. This was a good way to do this. They did the officer recruiting thing, so they've got a bunch of police officers at the academy. And I don't know why this happens. It happens in the army too. People act out when you tell them they can't do things. They don't want to have the discipline to do things, and we're in America, so these type of things are rampant. And it is what it is. What it is. So, like we've got a recruit on like getting drugs from the local gym. We've got another one who's involved with the Irish mafia. Like just weirdness like that you shouldn't be seeing in those scenarios, so that when you go investigate one of them being killed, like you shouldn't find these things. But like of course it's all related, and I don't know. I really saw the solution coming from left field. So I won't even spoil that because I don't really know how to connect it all because it was like, oh, that happened. But it was really an interesting thing, and I hope it's a setup to not only bring back the Irish mafia, but to actually reinstate some of these characters when they come out of training, and whether or not they become beat cops that work with Castle and Beckett, um, or not Beckett, but or like go to Beckett's precinct and then later become detectives. That would be interesting. Um, because maybe like not keep calling it Castle, but I would like another show to take over when Castle ends, and then maybe like Decker, in particular, takes over. Um, and of course, we see a really nice moment between Castle and Beckett because we know they've been cooperating, but we finally see them actually become a united front, which is super exciting. And that's a big setup for overall story arcs later on. And they better not leave us hanging this season on Lockset. I want at least the first part of finished off by the end of the season, and then next season can be, oh, let's see who's really behind a Lockset. And that's fine. I'd be fine with that. But we're coming close. That show's got to be coming to an end soon. Grimm, the show that keeps surprising me. They had a Vesson kill another Vesson to take his face for a mask to do spells. The magic element of Grimm is very confusing to me. It doesn't seem like there's any set rules. It seems like kind of whatever the writers want to fit for the show. And it's very much a mix between natural ability, which is what being vested is in itself, and actual spell casting, which we've seen in the past with Hexen Beasts. And it seems like the only creatures that do magic, or even psychic powers are Hexen Beasts and whatever Renard is. It's like a Trogon Beast or whatever, but it's just interesting to see that sort of thing. Um, so okay, so yeah, and then Adeline starts poking the bear at Nick to see how he's gonna react when he finds out that she's a Hexen Beast again, because that train is coming. Um, the question really too is what is Eve gonna do when they find out? Because I don't know if they're gonna want to bring Adeline in and make her another soldier, or if parts of Juliet are gonna take over and Eve's gonna try to kill Adeline. And then it's just Adeline's becoming a keystone in like 5 different story plots because Renard's actually looking, or it's been suggested to Renard that he should get back with Adeline, and he's actually reached out to her about getting their daughter back, which I think is actually a bigger deal than them actually making the front of being a family, um, which is the whole political campaign angle. And honestly, the political campaign angle is boring. Black Claw can do better than that. They want to operate out in the open. This is not doing that. This is being political and sneaky and backhanded. And unless our group or enough of Black Claw has gotten themselves killed where they have to resort to these tactics, Black Claw is going to end up being kind of boring from here out, I think. 11/22/63 down the rabbit hole. This show is super weird and interesting, not for any of the time travel reasons that it should be. Um, like spoilers. Bill turning on Jake, I didn't see that coming. I knew that like Marina was going to be a thing that was going to play against Bill, just like Sadie is playing against Jake. And he brought her in, and we're seeing that that's a mistake now with Bill. But he maybe he didn't treat Bill the best. Um, maybe that's just what it is. And he gave Bill a lot of responsibility that he shouldn't have, especially with the ledger, or the book. Shouldn't have done. So since Bill becomes a problem, to the point where like we think he's, or it's very possible Bill was becoming the second shooter. Jake has him committed, which is fucking weird. Like it's a weird that you could get away with that like that. I guess their fake identities were enough where he could actually do that. I don't know. But yeah, all he has to do is say this dude's from the future, and then like lock him up, because that day and age. Because who's gonna believe that that's the truth? Once you say that, you're done for. Yeah. So yeah, so and then Jake decides it's finally time to take out Oswald. They're within a month of the assassination at this point, and the gambling houses that he's been working with to make small bets here and there. Apparently, they're all linked. Um, and he did this big bet to get Sadie enough money for facial reconstructive surgery. And then Bill's a dick and wasn't being smart enough about it, even though Jake was actively telling him shit like that. Ugh, I hate stupid people and I hate greedy people, and Bill just turns out to be such a bad guy. I'm really thinking season 2 is going to be his second attempt to go back, and we're not going to get resolution in the first season. But of course, they take the frustration out of Jake and put him in the hospital. So now it's questionable if he's even going to wake up before the assassination happens. And Sadie's not going to take it into her own hands to get it done. It's not her mission. It's not. She's just not that type of lady. And thank goodness I think we like her because she's the better part of Jake at this point. Um, but I did think it was sweet that like they're having so many nice moments, and I mean, he of course has to save her from fate, and like barely too, and then like asking her to marry him. It's just, and they even mention like taking her back to the future. We don't know if it's possible yet. Um, but like she's gonna go insane if she does go there, and if it is possible, there's nothing to say that she goes into the void and just disappears. That she's not gonna be on the other side. That by her going first, removing her from history, rewrites history so that when she gets there, either she is no longer in history, so she's removed from that future and fades away, or she goes through a future where she doesn't exist from the time that she jumps in the portal to that point. It's there's just so many possibilities. When you don't do fatalistic time travel, I'm telling you, it's all over the place. It's nothing but possibilities, which was why, to me, it makes it for her a horrific writing process. But writers like it because they have the option to write whatever they feel like writing instead of having to conform to continuity. And it's a big thing I hate from comics. Over on Lucifer, Lucifer hooks up the pizza delivery guy, which I think is funny because it's just like he asks, like, he starts the conversation by like, how many of your pizza deliveries have ever ended in sex, like in the movies. And so he hooks him up, and then he makes friends with a priest, and then like they start investigating him for murder because Lucifer likes him for the murder. And then it turns out like the priest, because he's a priest, is helping underprivileged kids, and of course, underprivileged kids are stereotypically, I'm not saying in reality, but stereotypically associated with crime, because no one's keeping track. They're in need. They're easy targets for things like that. So there's a whole thing about that going on. I don't know if I want to ruin that because it's actually an interesting enough storyline that we're setting up for. Ah, fuck it. So the kid ends up doing drive-bys on the priest, and it ends up being his rite of passage for the association he's involved with, is to kill the priest. Which is kind of a dick move because it's like, oh, kill your dad and then you can be with us. Um, but we get more information on Coma Cop. He's supposed to be doing things. Hamadil, or whatever his name is actively after him for whatever reason. And then we find out it's because Amadil was the one that actually dragged him out of hell. And he wants him to kill Lucifer. And that's the big setup for what's coming up. I can't wait to see him be more active about this because that'll actively answer the questions of whether or not Lucifer is gaining mortality from cutting off his wings and actually becoming human, because he's got these behavioral things which you could write off here or there. But my bet still is lying that Detective Decker is actually some holy descendant, or she's just pure enough that she has enough holy power in her to imbue her weapons and strike damage to Lucifer. Now, granted, he's a holy being as well and not a demon, but we'll have to see. We'll just have to see what happens with that because I'm super interested. Um, Over in Supergirl, another episode where it's a lot of setup. There was some action and stuff, but I didn't pay attention to any of that because it wasn't interesting. Um, the whole big thing is that with the DEO being locked down, of course it's under tribunal investigation. They launched a joint task force between the Army and the Marines to not take them down, but to assess the situation. And that's what's supposed to happen: is unbiased people are supposed to walk in and assess the situation, do proper interrogations. And no, what happened is that the some alien Zenist is walking in being like, "You killed my buddy," and persecuting with extreme prejudice. And Lane's not any better, especially given her father, like his who helped direct implementation against Supergirl. Um, and then there's the whole question of whether or not they're American assets or Supergirl is actually still a Kryptonian asset, and whether Jean Johns is a Martian asset. Like they've been living there, staying there. It's their country as much as anybody else's, as far as I'm concerned. But legally, there's that whole questionable standpoint. It's like, well, where's the allegiance? Why haven't they done things? So what are they planning? And with the Kryptonian army on standby, like really, people need to get their heads out of their asses and let people claim things. Um, Especially if you're scared. If you're afraid of monsters, make friends with the monsters. Like as long as like you can protect yourself in any way, shape, or form, it's fine. And really, if you can't protect yourself, like if Supergirl really wanted to fuck everything up, she could, and she almost did. And there's nothing, almost nothing anyone could do anything about it. So the fact that John Johns was outed trying to save the world from Supergirl gone bad, and then locked himself up, you would think like these would be things to his credit, but no, the people still look at things that aren't human as things, and we're not to the point of being able to relate to relating to people as sentient and not human. Which is gonna probably, well, honestly, even if there are Xenos out there, that I'm sure there are, but like ones that would actually interact with us on any positive nature, we'll have AIs to do that with first. So we'll have to get used to talking to things, actual things, as people, and recognizing sentience for peopleism that way before we deal with Xenos. And I think that may be what they're waiting for. If they're not planning to come down and kill us or feed off our byproducts, that's what they're waiting on, is for us not to want to kill them immediately. Because, quite honestly, why would you deal with that hassle? A bunch of people over on this planet that would like to kill you, don't deal with them. Nothing over on the Flash, Arrow, or DC Legends of Tomorrow. It's fine, but we do have Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Um, I like that we're in this period where a lot of these shows are setting up for bigger things. I could see where it could get frustrating for people out there, but I like it. I'm personally a fan. The Not Ward creature is, I don't know if he's enslaving, but he's definitely talking to the humans in ways that the humans can't understand, and aligning allegiance with it. And then of course he's eating people because why wouldn't he? He's got to get his strength back somehow. Um, and I'm looking forward to see how they physically represent the change, because right now, like, they're showing him super gaunt. Makeup people have to be out of their mind doing his makeup every episode. But they're doing a really good job. I'll give them that credit. There was some little stuff going back, because normally my favorite part of the entire thing is Simmons and Fitz. But like, there's lots of little background pieces moving there, dealing with the Inhuman team members and all the missions. But like, really, the most of it was dealing with the op. They used the general and the douchebag. What's this called? Absorbing Man. On a mission, and of course, the general turns out to be a traitor. With the guy that Coulson's looking for coming out of the woodwork and being like, "Oh, hey, buddy. Thanks for grabbing Coulson for me." Like, what the fuck? And I think they had the general's son, I think is what it was. So, like, there's double crossing going on. We're gonna have to see where it goes. But It really seems like a good thing. Um, Nothing for Agent Carter. I think Agent Carter's done for a while. It'll surprise me later on. Once Upon a Time. Like, nothing's happened with Minority Report in a while. Should just take it off there. But Once Upon a Time, they're still running around Hades. I think, not to be confusing, but like hell in Roman mythology or Greek mythology, whatever it is Hades, as well as the god who managed it was Hades. I think it was supposed to be the idea that the world was an extension of himself, and so in this version, he's feeding off the souls that are there. Like there's concept that the souls are a source of energy, or they radiate energy, and it's common in like a lot of mythologies that like Lucifer or whoever the devil is feeding off that radiant energy. So in this case, Hades is upset that people are leaving because he likes having X number there. So just general mathematics, he wants people to stay. So there's the whole thing with Hook chiseling people's names, and I don't think he did it, but I think the tombstones got made regardless. Um, so the team can't use certain things because some of them are now dead. Um, but so they make a play against Hades. Hades turns Rumple against them, um, and then leverages Rumple into total blackmail at this point because it turns out Belle's pregnant. Ugh. Quite a mess because Rumple promised his second born to a douchebag, and then the douchebag traded it to Hades for some kind of Turkish delight, and not like the actual sweet, but like in line with the wardrobe, something that's gonna fade away. Um, yeah, and then Regina actually found magic down there, so I thought that was interesting. Um, so yeah, so we're all geared up for a big battle coming up, but I think it's like 3 episodes away. I don't think it's going to be next episode or the next episode after. I think we're going to have a little bit more setup. We're going to have a little bit more trauma. We're going to have to pick up an ally somewhere to help uh, give them something that they didn't have before. And that may just be Rumple coming back full force as the Dark One or whatever happens. Um, but or maybe Rumple will take over Hell. That would actually be an interesting twist. Um, but we're gonna see something here happen. But the guy who's playing Hades, he may be like an evil Mark Gardner, but fuck, he's doing a good job at it. Second Chance. Like I saw this coming and I still couldn't believe it. Mary and Pritchard, of course, go in to confront Otto, and unless you can detain him properly, you don't do that. Because Pritchard was like half hour away from needing the tank when he did it. Of course, he falls apart in the middle of it. And then Otto, being smart as he is, gets around everything and escapes. And he takes Arthur with him, and he goes to Connor because fucking where else is he gonna go? Even if Connor's manipulating him, especially because Connor's manipulating him, and Otto has this weird perspective that Mary's turned against him. That's where Otto's gonna go, and then of course he's gonna do unworldly things because Otto doesn't have the same relationship with people that anyone does, and Connor's a monster. So of course Albert Lynn's not a problem when you look at the grander scheme. Neither is kidnapping Pritchard's granddaughter, Duval's daughter. Um, and I'll be honest, I don't even remember where we left off, but I know Pritchard's on a ticking clock because he doesn't have the tank anymore. He's palling around with Duval trying to solve this thing. And Alexa, oh yeah, that's right. Alexa came back out of the woodwork and told Mary because she lost the only motivating factor that she had to be the monster that she was being, which was her husband. Because her husband fucked off because he obviously wanted nothing to do with the whole plot. No episode for the 100, though I'm eagerly waiting because it is the show that is unlike any other show out there right now. Stitchers and of course Journey Quest are on hiatus. So while all these shows didn't have episodes, I did manage to go catch up on some things. I've managed to finish off Fear of the Walking Dead. I only had 1 episode left, and we had all this set up in episodes 2 through 5, and then the 6th episode is literally like things are just getting bad. Military's pulling out. Then on top of that, our core group opens up the stadium full of the dead people to distract what's left of the military at the medical facility, so that they can sneak in and rescue people. And they just fucked everything. Like literally, like the one place that was doing any good for other people, like they just sicked the dead on them. And really, like I don't understand why you wouldn't open one of those doors and just mow those fuckers down. It really survival for a zombie apocalypse comes down to one simple thing. It's the living versus the dead. And if you are not on the living side to help all the living people against the dead, and that means that you could be just against the dead. You don't even have to be necessarily productively helpful for the living, but you have to be offensive against the dead and not detrimental to the living. Um, and that's it. That's the only requirements that are there. And these guys are just breaking shit left and right because they're looking after themselves. And they're supposed to be our core group of characters that we care about, that we sympathize with. And I really don't. Um, The Walking Dead has always been about more than the characters in it. It's about the world. The world is the main character, not these assholes that are surviving. Because ever since the first comic came out, it was always anyone can die. Look, here's a 5-year-old. Watch him get eaten. And it's been like that forever, and that's what I like about the world because it is that dramatic maybe, but dramatic. Over on Erased, this has been a really good experience for me with anime, and Crunchyroll maybe not so much, because I'm always a week behind. And if you watch on Hulu, because I think it's available on Hulu, that it does show up. Why did it show up so late? Um. Okay, whatever. Um. So like I still have one more episode to go at least. Erased may be over for you if you're a Crunchyroll member. More power to you. Go over there, use uh crunchyroll.com/totalbiscuit. I don't know. And do it. Do the thing. If you like anime enough to watch anime, especially subtitled that consistently, it's totally worth the money. I just don't. I need to listen to things more often than read them. But Erased is just really good, and people I knew were into it, so I wanted to check it out. But he finally managed to go back right as he was being arrested, um, and save Kaio. He saved the other two little girls, but of course that leaves this gap. So the killer's just not going to be happy about things. He's not going to just continue on with life. He's going to try to find an outlet, and he's going to try. And he's obviously a smart guy, so he's going to try to figure out what happened. And it turns out that like there was obviously a very consistent theme between all three girls that were to go missing that didn't. That Satoru was involved, and it was new in their life, or more involved in their life thereafter. So, of course, the killer notices that and targets him and sets him up. So, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. It turns out it's a fucking teacher, like I thought. I'm not saying I'm a genius that I knew it before everybody else, but as I'm watching the show, I'm going, it's that guy. It's got to be that guy. Because it obviously wasn't the mom, it was someone other than the mom that maybe was working with her. Because I actually thought it was one of her boyfriends or something in the beginning, but it turns out because it was a serial mass, it had to be someone that was involved with all these students, which is the deal. So it's obviously got to be someone in the realm of teachers because we weren't introduced to anybody that was outside that. And they could have done that. They could have done the total ballpark, out of nowhere thing, but it doesn't explain why later on in the original timeline that the mother is killed and it's set up to look like Satoru is involved. So I'm looking forward to see how they tie that together, especially since we end with the killer uh, putting him in a car and running it into a cold river. Not far enough for the cold car to submerge, but just far enough for Satoru to drown. Which, if he just put the seat back, he probably would have been fine. Yeah, I've never been in a seatbelt enough where like I wouldn't be able to escape from it. like one way or the other. Maybe if I'm trying not to crush people in the back seat, that's another matter entirely. Um, yeah. So moving on to other shows that I said I was going to catch up on. The Comedians, totally worth the watch. Now, I don't have a lot to say to this comparative to how much I watched. Sometimes your head itches, you can't do anything about it, folks. Sorry. Um, but it's Billy Crystal and Josh Gad, and it's supposed to be an old style comedian meets a new wave comedian, and like you're supposed to laugh at how different they are, but that they both love comedy, and that there's a natural conflict but brotherly association there, and blah 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 blah. But the fact that they're forced to work together to get any type of show at this point, um, you do the business thing and you use the business thing to do what you love. And typically in the movie industry, it's like you do the safe film, you do the artistic film, you do the safe film, you do the artistic film until you have enough clout to do whatever the hell you want. And Billy Crystal, you would think, would be at that point, even in today's age. Um, but the joke, I guess, is that he's out of date. So you need someone young and upcoming, or more upcoming, or currently popular, whatever you want to say, to help balance him out and cover the gap on popularity. So Josh Gad is that character, and there's some great scenes where like they're just palling around, they're being father son, they're being brothers. Um, like Josh gets invited over to Billy's house by Billy's wife, even though Billy doesn't want that. All these things where like people show up from Billy's past and Josh has no idea who they are, or Josh knows this guy and Billy has no idea who he is. They've got like there's actually like a whole thing where they hired a black guy to get more diverse. It's a stupid trope. Don't fucking do that. Hire black people, but just do it because they're good writers and you want to include their talents on your show. Don't just fucking do it. Be oh you're a black guy. Say something funny, black guy. Which is actually a Rooster Teeth joke on a Vine that they did. But whatever. The funny bit was they actually totally turned it around and they made themselves look like assholes, which you never see on a show typically. But they made themselves look like assholes for not doing the guy's racist skit or whatever because it was a funny skit. They were just racially concerned because they were an old and young white Jewish guy or white Jewish guys. And then the special director that came in, I don't know who he actually was now that I think about it. Um, but like just one of the gimmicks they did is like they needed a director, so they hired this new director, and he wanted to completely change the show. It's just annoying. It's like if you're gonna do a show, do a show. So it's like it's a lot of writing production jokes. So if you're aware of like how a show gets put together at all, you'll definitely relate to it and think it's funny. But if you're just there, it's like no, just entertain me. I don't care how the hamburger's made. Then maybe this isn't the show for you. I still think it's funny. A lot of the bits are just really good. Um, and trying to keep the comedy in my life going, I watched Cooper Barrett's Guide to Surviving Life. Uh, I don't find this to be a very good show. The cast is really has its ups and downs when it comes down to it. But I did recognize the little Asian girl from Bitch from Apartment 23. She was the obsessed neighbor. I really like her as a character and a writer. Um, I think she also did was it Party Girls or something? I gotta check in on that one, but she's good, and she's probably the most interesting character on the show to me. She plays the quirky wife of the married guy, um, and then the love interests are what keep the show fresh. I actually really liked. I wanted them to do more with her. Like the first love interest introduced in the entire show was like a 6 foot something like muscle builder chick who liked the little nerdy guy, and I was like, not only do you never see it done that way, but you never see it embraced well. And of course, it wasn't embraced well because this is a boys show, a boys club show, and it's probably why I don't like it. It takes a special group of guys for me to enjoy a boys club show, but the way they break it up by talking to the fourth wall and making it into a modern day fable is actually keeps it interesting enough. And then by adding the girls in consistently, like you're refreshing that idiot testosterone level, and it's not so bad. Um, So yeah, when it comes down to it, it's got some really cute moments. It's a decent show. I just wish it was better, and it wasn't about loser college guys. Because it's probably the most boring demographic of people I've ever seen. Because except for like, with the exception of two guys, a girl, and a pizza place, I don't know if I've ever enjoyed that trope as in a TV show. Um, in movies, it's a one and done, so sure, why not? It actually works out. And in Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, it was they were graduate level students. They had gotten out of the undergraduate phase where they were just losers, but now they're graduates. They're smart guys working on their doctorates or architectural dissertations. Um, so like that was actually pretty interesting. Um, I don't know how I feel about it. It's the same guy that was in Falling Skies as the main lead character. I'm not gonna say the main character, but the lead character. Um, the Librarians, which is based off a series of movies called The Librarian, which is actually like a magical Doctor or Indiana Jones, which I almost like better than Indiana Jones. I hate to say it, but I did have the series of The Librarians to back me up. So in 2004, The Librarian Quest for the Spear came out. Um, in 2006, Return for King Solomon's Mines. In 2008, Curse of the Judas Chalice, which I haven't watched yet, but I will because I actually like this franchise enough. So I'm really glad they brought out a series based on it, and they actually pick up. It's approximate timelines, and they keep it modernized. So it was good that they did that. But the library is finally selecting a new guardian for the current librarian, which is the same guy from the movies, the guy from Falling Skies. And he's very much of like, oh, I've done fine without a guardian all this time. And it's like, well, the library wants a guardian because the library is a magic library. It has a will of its own. It's very Mr. Majorium's Wonder Emporium, where it's the magic toy shop. Nobody explained this to the mutant. Mutant, it's the magic toy store. That's my the worst impression of that actor ever, and I feel horrible that I just forgot his name. I knew it before I started talking. Nope, not coming to me. I feel utterly horrible because he's a fantastic actor. This is such an aside. But the librarians are great, and it doesn't help that the cast is super interesting. Um, uh, Dustin Hoffman. And I horrible. I loved him in Stranger Than Fiction more than anything else he's ever been in. But Mr. Jordan's up there. Um, so the librarians, the series is all about like the library appointing a new guardian, and then the guardian and the librarian like the library becomes under attack, and the library actually activates fail safes, which removes it into its own pocket dimension, so that they lose access to the library. So it's kind of like, well, what's the point of having a librarian if you don't have the library? So they have to get the library back because they know that they can, that it's possible. And you need somewhere to put, very Warehouse 13, they need somewhere to put these magical items that the world is not ready for or can't handle, and that aren't safe to destroy. That's a big thing because, like, there's the Spear of Destiny, which actually is in the first movie, that is so strong that they can't destroy it. It took so much energy just to forge the thing, and it took so much just to break it into three pieces, and then it took that much to get it back into one whole object, that you, in theory, you could never destroy it. In theory, I'm sure that could be a thing later on. So they find what's called the Annex, which is an extension of the library that still exists, still retains some of the powers that the library had. Of course, it recognizes the librarian first, and then the caretaker there second. Very much like the old guy from the movies. He's the old guy in Big Bang Theory, the one that died and comes back as Obi-Wan Kenobi for Sheldon. Great actor, really good. I really liked him. So they decide that they need more help because someone's got to handle the cases, the normal cases, while the librarian tries to find the library. And the guardian's job is supposed to be to find the librarian or to protect the librarian. But we have all these librarians now, and the first one's gotten along so well for so long that you nix that, and then she kind of stays to train and protect the new librarians, which is a whole thing throughout the series that they're trying to essentially earn enough credits to graduate and stay alive, because that's how they used to train librarians. Is like, well, go out and be the librarian. If you come back alive, then you're the librarian. It's very much what's that movie with the bugs? Um, do the job until I'll do the job until you can find someone better, uh, or I die. Like that's the philosophy. So I really think that's interesting. Um, so they go through a whole series of adventures, and like I should have a list of them, but they're so good and like they're really kind of enjoy the moment type things, and they very much lead into like, hey, this is what we need. How do we plan this out? It's very Monaco. Oh, if you've ever played Monaco, it's very much like that. It's like everybody has their own skill set. How do we use these to complete the mission? Maybe that's why I like it, because it's very much set up like a video game. And in particular, I hate being that guy, but I like women. And pretty redheads get my attention, and there is one there that is very much on the scale. Not only is she just very, very smart, but she's a sensiopath, so she actually uh, all her senses cross. So like she can numbers are colored. It helps for the processing of math, in the people who have it, and she's like full fledged, like has crazy delusions and stuff because she over processes things. So like just really feels like it was a character made for me. And I like, to a degree at least, that they very purposely keep her covered and they don't like show off her body or anything. She plays very conservatively until she goes bad person. Then they have her undress, not to the point where you and I would consider her undressed, but where she considers she's undressed. And there's very much a thing when she snaps out of it and she's like, "Where are my clothes?" Um, so even though she's not naked or like she's not even bathing suit level. Like she's showing her midriff and legs. So Irvs can dial it down. But she's very pretty. I got used to seeing her around, and towards the end of it, Alicia Witt shows up, and if you know me and the ginger, like she's definitely on the list. And she's super tall too, so it was really cool to see her in heels up against the Guardian and like have that crazy face off. And I really hope she comes back as a character later on. But uh, and they end the season on them graduating and being assigned to their own individual missions, and then for bigger stuff they'll grow up kind of like the Avengers. So there's definitely got to be a season 2, but the question is whether or not they go and they do one season that maybe rotates through, or starts with them sticking together on missions for a few more, until somebody comes in and, hey, you got to break up, or someone dies. There's so much potential for the second season. They could even do like 3 or 4 different shows that all cross over, because we're in that world where people will accept that, and I'm so excited about that. So I had the ginger bug, and I kept seeing Shadowhunters pop up because they won't fucking leave me alone, and I had actually openly denounced it here because I had seen something. Oh my god, it took me forever to find where I knew the story from, because I started watching the show and was like, I know this story. I know exactly what's going to happen. And it turns out mostly it's not completely from the movie, but there was a movie in 2013 called The Mortal Instrument City. I'm sorry, The Mortal Instruments City of Bones. Which I have no idea why that's the title, but the title of the TV show is Shadowhunters: The Mortal Instruments. So there's the tie-in for you. Um, but I just thought it was Shadowhunters the movie because that's what the whole thing's about. But of course, it's some girl who doesn't know she's a Shadowhunter that gets dragged into this crazy fucking world. It's been a big trope over the past 5 years, because I can think of like 2 other franchises that use that same thing, and you can definitely tell that this was designed to be another Twilight. Maybe there's a series of books as well, but this was very much designed to be a uh, type of thing where like, oh, the girl has to choose over these guys in very dramatic scenarios, and to draw in people who are known to read books, which typically it appears to be young females, where the young guys are off trying to find pretty girls to look at. Reading books, guys. That's where you gotta go. Their bedrooms, which sounds even worse. So maybe don't do that. But yeah, so she finds she's a secret part of this world, and she embraces it because she is a shadow hunter. She can't get away from it. She gets a lot of pushback, and her mom's been kidnapped. She doesn't know who her dad is. When she finds that out, she freaks out because spoilers, he's the bad guy. And so like that causes even more pushback for her in this world that she can't choose to not be part of. When it comes down to it, she can't opt out. They can reject her, but she can't opt out. So I mean, there's werewolves, vampires, demons, fairies. They've got a bunch of these other classes of shit that they've got going on, and they all the shadow hunters refer to everyone else as lower than them. So this fucking elitist crowd. And the only person that I'm really into is actually the slutty sister was kind of interesting. Like, not because she's slutty or attractive, because she is. I'm not saying she's not. Um, but because she was the one that's willing to parlay with the other races. She's the one that actually has connections. So, like, out of any of them, she's the most pure, where everyone else is very elitist and military and like, is openly against what they call mundanes, muggles. Um, so it's like it's a show that fights you on liking the core group of characters because it's like, well, fuck these guys, they're assholes. But then you see what assholes the werewolves and the vampires and everybody are, who also don't want to play nice with everybody. It's like crap, and it makes me really want Laurel K. Hamilton series. I want now, it's the same universe, so I don't know how they would do it, or if they would ever do crossover. But I want the Meredith Gentry series, and you have to go to HBO for that. There's not another thing that's going to give it to you. And Anita Blake, and given where it goes eventually with Anita Blake, you'd probably need HBO as well. So maybe it's time to start tweeting at HBO and Little K. Hamilton and be like, hey, do a thing, just don't let it be True Blood, because I think that's what's holding us back now. They did True Blood, and they let True Blood get away from them. It became this whole independent monstrosity that no one likes. Um, Even the people who were fans and stuck with it go, no, that was a train wreck. So HBO is probably not going to pick up another book series for a while, because I think the Charlene Harris series you could do really well if you did it again, and maybe if you did the Kim Harrison series, the Hollows, you could do that one on like CBS or NBC or one of these other ones. Maybe Showtime should start looking at these things. I bet somebody owns the rights; they're just not doing it yet. And with the failed startup on the Anita Blake Vampire Hunter comic, I feel really weird about it, especially since that Anita Blake is not the Anita Blake that I have in my head. The Anita Blake that I have in my head is very pale skinned, but she's got dark hair and dark eyes. She's very Mexican with like this weird Irish splash on her. And I think when you hit a comic, people who are going to the comic are expecting a certain visual, and when they don't get it, they don't like it. So people may just not understand other mediums when they try to bring their books and such across. Daredevil has started a second season, which I'm actually against. I'm actually openly against that this happened before we got my Luke Cage series and before we got Iron Fist, even though I'm not an Iron Fist fan. But I started up my Netflix to watch it, so I understand that I am not helping the situation. I'm not helping Netflix learn not to do things, but I had already planned to reinstate it by the next time we did a movie from there for hashtag We Were Movie Club, or the next time that that they put out a Marvel series, or an interesting enough Netflix original series. Because even though I can't get into House of Cards, it just doesn't fly for me. I can't do it. I really like what they're doing with these street level superheroes, and I'm gonna watch Daredevil 2. It's coming. 12 Monkeys is still there. I'm gonna make it a point to watch Powers one way or the other, and if I can do it by I thought it was on YouTube, but I lost the playlist, or Sony took it down. Maybe they heard me. Um, but I have to either re-find it there on YouTube or figure out a way that I can do PSP for a month and drop it, because I'm not paying for half a year to a year of PSP, PlayStation Plus, when I don't play with that console. Like I could plug in my PS3 and do stuff with it, and maybe that's what I gotta look into to see if I can make it worthwhile for free games or stuff for PSP. Or maybe I should just talk to my friend Mayhem's Muse, see if I could get her PSP with access for me to watch Powers. That may be what I need to do. That may actually be a way that we can benefit. Maybe we can split the cost or something. But 12 Monkeys is still on the list. Finding Carter. Got to go back and watch Constantine. The Family, which I can't even remember what that's about now. I thought Finding Carter was the one where the girl finds out that she was kidnapped. How to Get Away with Murder was still on my suggestion list. Of course, Game of Thrones is coming, so I've been able to knock out a show a week at least. So by the end of April, I'll be able to at least have my future watch list, and as long as I don't add anything else, maybe I can get through everything else, because I'm pretty sure I'll get through Daredevil pretty quick. And then I think How to Get Away with Murder is short, and Powers is fairly short. So if I can get those, I can probably get through those 3 in a week or 2. Deal with it. Of course, I watched The Voices a while back. I don't know why I left this on here. For hashtag We Are Movie Club. If you like talking about movies and or maybe not shows, but right now we're concentrating heavily on specific movies for a podcast style over in youtube.com/We Are Movie Club. Of course, if you look up hashtag Movie Club, you'll see it pop up places. And if you want to get involved with us, by all means, please hit us up on the Twitters at We Are Movie Club. We'd love to talk to you about what you're into. That's it for now. My back's killing me, and I'm super hungry all of a sudden, so I don't know what that's about. But, till you see me next time, I am Kamurai. Have a nice day. If you want to see anything else we're up to, go ahead and click the annotations, and they'll take you to our other channels. Thanks for watching.